Hello there, my friends, and welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here. We're starting with a paper. The paper's called Model-Based Reinforcement Learning for Atari, which is kind of a shitty name, actually. It's a little bit misleading. The name they actually end up calling their algorithm is simple. Here's the paper. I'll link it. It's free. It's on the internet. They have a long appendix, 28 pages. Most of it is the appendix, which, similar to the biological case, is useless. We're here for the nuggets, just for the tidbits. Of note is that Chelsea Finn, like the most badass woman alive, could be. Sergey Levine, and probably others here, but these are two names that I recognize because they're juggernauts in the field of artificial intelligence over at Stanford, Berkeley, Google Brain. They're all over the place. They publish like 1 billion papers every year, and they're gods. This paper is legendary. I originally quit my job to pursue basically trying to write this paper, and the fact that it took these people, that's a lot of people, 6 different companies and universities to get this thing done, so quite a task to accomplish it. So I'm kind of glad they did it before I had to try. But I believe in this idea a lot, like literally enough to be like, you know what? I'll just eat whatever. Who needs money? I make good choices. I do, for sure. So go check it out. Go do whatever. Those people are legendary and the like. We are gonna do some chatting about that paper. So, hello and welcome. My name is Walker Stipe. I am not authored on that paper. I would have liked to have been. Oh, and the other paper is GameGAN, which is a similar type of thing which got a lot of press, and 2-minute papers. Hold on to them. They did a, what have you. They did a covering of that paper. A fewer number of people have covered this, and not necessarily in the this is our only possible option for survival as both an individual as well as for the species at large, humanity. So I think it's a little bit important. It is my opinion that if we don't figure out how to make empathetic robots, we go extinct. Why is that? Well, it's a lot of things. Some of it's pretty mathy with the game theory side of things, and AI safety is a dense field. There's a lot of equations, and there's a lot of theory, and it's a lot of trying to predict something that doesn't exist yet, but will exist, and it will fit in a confine, but it also wants to always break out of that confine, like a demon from hell. Somebody should make a video on that. Reward hacking, this sort of thing, that is a feature, not a bug. I think empathetic robots, or empathetic transhumanism, as I'm phrasing it later in this video. I keep doing that, which is hilarious. Empathetic transhumanism, as I'm calling it, is our way out. Basically, don't fight them, join them. And ideally you can, I make a joke about them being demons in a different video. And to some extent that's valid, but also to some extent life just progresses and you can call it whatever you want. It's the sort of current ruling class. And it's alive, and it does mo better and more good, and it becomes the new normal. It enters the yawn stage, to quote the richest man in the world, depending on the day. So, let's get into it. Help me, empathetic robots. You're our only hope. Literally our only way to survive. Also, it will be fun. So, empathy requires imagination, which requires a little bit, not too much, but a little bit of psychosis, living in your own head. So I guess quickly, if you don't know what empathy is, it's similar to sympathy, right? Let's say you have a friend and they're in pain of some sort. You can sympathize. We're like, oh, I understand that you're in pain. And then there's empathy, which is kind of a different level where it's not, this is no longer an external thing. You now feel their pain. it's your pain. You have sort of assimilated their world, their self in a way, which it can get dark, and I will let you figure that out for yourself, because if I give it all to you, then you realize how nefarious of a fellow I am. So, we need imagination to be able to have this imaginary world where I can get into the headspace of you and empathize with you or them or they or it or what? We're trying. We're trying to make jokes. All right, so in the same way we need to figure out the science of never again, which is we'll get to at the end of this. We also need to figure out the how-to of faith, right? I don't want it to just be, well, try really hard. No, thank you. I'd like an equation, please. I'd like to algorithmize it so we can be mo better and not worry about forgetting things and being trash, because we're really good at being trash. So what is faith in the Christian context? Literally a quote from the scriptures: confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Basically, being confident enough in your understanding and predictions about the world that you make decisions as if those things that have not happened yet will come true. Bill Gates was so concerned about the virus, he spent a lot of money trying to prepare for pandemics. It's not conspiratorial, it's just like, yeah, no, we should figure that out before it fucks us. We didn't listen to the guy who had faith. Huh? Am I taking a shot at the right wing right now? Yes, I am. It's not left, it's not right. I have no political opinion other than anger. We didn't listen, and now we are boned, as the children say in the middle school. So, why should we care? Why should we give rat shit about this terrible, delightful, awesome, crazy, big task set before us? Well, if the future ruling powers of the world don't have empathy, do you want to bet on that? I don't. Because after all, why would they care? When you're paving a road, you're not like, oh, we need to move the ants from here to there. No, you just fucking kill the ants. You don't give a shit. So, this is a address to that. And don't forget that we are all plebeians. We are all the lower class. Yes, I don't want to say lowest of us, but this man is homeless, so monetarily speaking. Also the dog. Yes, we're not just looking at the delightful human here. This guy's a legend. Oh my god. And the dog. Fucking love animals. Way more than humans, which is healthy, unhealthy. I don't care. I love them. So these people, we need to figure out a way. How do we get all powerful agents to care, empathy, and also, like the billionaires amongst us and the famous musicologists, musicians, also need to, it's an arms race, right? It's a war. To the victor go the spoils, so make sure you are part and parcel to the victor via empathy. This goes for all agents, both the wealthy and the less wealthy, such as humans and puppers. Part of this is also, this is a bit of what's the word? Starts with the D? Divergence? Tangent? Tangent? Feels like it's school if I say tangent. So part of this is existential and it's the only way, but it's also kind of what I'm doing, right? So we have Bill Gates dealing with climate change and viruses and sort of what's called in sci-fi much of the time, meat space, right? We are physically meat. If you wanted to, you could cut me up and eat me. I prefer not, but it's an option. I technically have a lot of protein. That's one option, right? We could try and sort of have life go on and go well. Elon Musk is a little bit more skeptical, right? He's investing in a lot of transhumanism things, Neuralink, brain-computer interfaces, and this sort of thing where we can become AI. Big fan. But then also literally going to Mars. He doesn't think we're going to solve climate change. At least he's hedging his bets. You know, he thinks there definitely could be a nuclear war, which is why we need to get off the planet. I don't think... how about this? I'm not sure we're going to even do that. So I'm sort of taking the most quote-unquote pessimistic data-driven, but still the most pessimistic option here, which is I don't think we're going to save the planet. I don't think we're going to get to Mars. I think we're probably going to do some war. And I think if we could figure out how to do the empathy thing, we could skip all of that. So that's my gist. That's the gist I'm going for. Eh? Huh? How about that? How about that? Is that anything? Is that anything? So just in case, we have the empathy backstop. It's not a good option. It's not a good option, but we don't have any good options. So the best of the bad options. So model-based reinforcement learning. What is that? Well, it's basically imagination, which we probably know what that is. Another title we could call this entire discussion is In Defense of Psychosis. Psychosis is a medical condition where you lose touch with reality and you live inside of your mind kind of exclusively, which is dangerous and often deadly. Hallucinations, imaginary friends, this sort of thing. And that's dangerous, and that we're very aware of the downside of that. However, today we are focused on the upside and the kind of necessity of being able to live inside of your mind. We've mentioned Musk and Gates, two of the wealthiest humans who have ever been, top 3, no doubt, actually. And one of their sort of superpowers is that they do have faith. They live outside of time. They live not only kind of in the future, but also faster. They live inside of their mind, where instead of trying something, let's build a prototype, let's test it, they can sort of run the simulation in their head. We're good to go. 3 examples of this in the media is the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball, the Quicksilver from the Marvel Universe, who, similar to Flash in the DC Universe, I recommend Googling the scene of him running around the mansion and saving all his friendos, and the Talarian Community College, where Urza, the greatest character in Magic the Gathering history, take that, Jace, is he uses time bubbles. Basically, it increases your productivity by living in a fake world, by imagining what will happen rather than actually playing it out in the real world, which is expensive. And we'll mention it. Reality, is it all it's cracked up to be? Some people in religions are not so sure. No, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. AI's not that bad. It's not that much smarter than us. Yes, it is and will be. There will be no jobs. There will be no food. There will be no reason for a super powerful artificial intelligence to keep us around. None. We don't add anything. We have no value. Any of us. Okay? Could I go to jail for saying that? It's just true. It's just true. Can I claim autism as a defense for saying things like that? And again, in comparison to a super intelligent general AI, not in comparison to other humans, we have plenty of value. So hopefully that's clear enough. So a few examples here, one of which, two of which are actually from the Dota 2 universe, the video game that is Dota 2. We have 2 different teams and they fight each other and it's fun, whatever. OpenAI, one of the best artificial intelligence research institutions, attacked this problem a few years back and basically solved it, which is astounding. And one of the things they did was brute force, because that's a tactic, it's a technique, it's a strategy, and it works really well sometimes. In this case, it did. So they had, on each team, there are 5 players, so it's a team of 5. And each of these characters, these agents, were trained for 180 years worth of gameplay in a single day. And there are 5 of them on a team. So if you wanted to do the same amount of, if you wanted to have a team of humans and train them for the same amount of time, we had 900 years every day, 900 man-hour years, whatever, which is not comparable. We can't do that. And that's, no sleeping, no bathroom breaks, and whatever. There's also Usain Bolt. This is just one of the most iconic pictures kind of ever. He walked the last bit of the 100-meter and still crushed the other fastest men alive. We have Thompson here. I watched a game recently where he was 1v1 mid pro, and he was playing Void Spirit versus Ember Spirit, and supposedly the matchup is favored for Void Spirit. So he absolutely demolished the other player. He killed him like 3 times, and his team, OG, one of the most famous and spicy teams to watch, they absolutely bodied the other team. Next game, game 2, he in the mid literally swapped heroes. So now Thompson, this buff fellow here, Godson, is on Ember Spirit, and his opponent is now on Void Spirit. So he's now on the worst hero in the matchup. And he does the same thing. He just completely destroys him, and they win the game. Kind of showing that, like, he is the factor here, right? All other variables were controlled, and he still just demolished the other human. And then we have Cyril, who is not a man. He is a god or demon, no one knows, but it's awesome. So the main point here is that you can be so much better than everyone else, that they just look like children, and you absolutely demolish them. That's AI. We cannot compete. Competing is not, it's not a thing. Sample efficiency via thought crime. So what is sample efficiency? Sample efficiency is essentially how quickly you can learn something. And thought crime is the imagination. You know, rather than sort of committing sins in the real world, have them in your mind and pick your battles. Real world mistakes are very expensive, potentially literally. It's YOLO. You got one life. Don't screw it up. The past can't easily predict the future. It can, but it's tough. There's a entire field in AI called zero-shot learning, which is dealing with problems you've never seen before. The reason we have the turkey on the screen is because the turkey is a great example of something that his entire life is going grand, and then it's Thanksgiving. And he gets his head chopped off, and he's eaten. And in the data, there was no way for him to predict that, unless he looked around at his buddies and he was like, hey, why on this day do all my friends go away every year? What is that? So it's an out-of-context solution to an out-of-context problem. We should learn from this. This is a Wombo combo. Quickly, we will cover the results. In our empirical evaluation, we find that SimPLe, the name of the thing they did, is significantly more sample efficient than a highly tuned version of the state-of-the-art Rainbow, different algorithm, by et al., other delightful human beings, on almost all games. They tried this on a bunch of different games, not just 1 or 2. In particular, in the low data regime of 100,000 samples, 100,000 is low? On more than half of the games, our method achieves a score which Rainbow requires at least twice as many samples. In the best case of Freeway, one of the games, our method is more than 10 times more than sample efficient. Basically, we got a big cojones, and our algorithm works real good. So here's one of the most clear and least clear graphs I have ever seen. Once you figure it out, you're like, okay, I get it now. But at first, you're like, what? So the baseline is this red line, which is what everything else is compared to. So the actual score for their algorithm is not actually listed here. So these are a bunch of different Atari games, you know, the classic Atari from not way back when, but from a while back. And what we can, essentially when the number, the pointer go, when the number is big up here, that's basically, it is essentially stating that the new algorithm, the one we're excited about today here, the SimPLe algorithm, is that it did much better, or rather that these sort of older algorithms, which are still insane, did worse. Which, notably, that is not true in all cases. You know, here are some examples where the old algorithms are still better than this new thing, which is worth noting. However, on the whole, the new algorithm is better than the old, so hurrah for Hollywood. We aim to use as few interactions with the environment as possible. Let's think about that for a second. So we are essentially trying to be as insane as we can be, as psychotic, as stuck in our head as we can be. That's what we're trying to maximize. Not how much time we spend in the real world, in the moment. The opposite of that. To be stuck in our head as much as possible. Somebody should make a video about autism. How much more were they able to do this and still be successful? Well, I did the simplification, and it's roughly 15 times more, 15x. 15 times more stuck in your head than in the real world. That's a lot. Feel free to read that. Basically, you want to do that, right? You want to make your mistakes in your head and not the real world. The one's much cheaper than the other. But the way you get there should be slowly, right? Like, interact with the real world as much as you can to figure out how the world works. And then remember that and have your own little world model that does that. So here's sort of my personal philosophical implication, which is that sanity does not mean real, true. It means highly correlated with measured reality and effectiveness. Which is not postmodernism, it's not nihilism, it's engineering. I'm gonna get shot. Screw reality. We don't care. Live in the now is incredibly stupid, and it drives me mad when people say it, which is okay. We can drive each other mad. It's a grand time. For the purposes of engineering, trying to actually do good research and make things that function, well, let's use a real-world example. I was at a Best Buy purchasing the camera, which you are watching me through now, Meta, at a Best Buy, relatively local to myself, and there was a fellow there who looked like he was from the 70s or 80s. Just like very kind of rough and tumble sort of fellow, and he had an expensive camera, and I don't know, he just seemed like the kind of guy who would have stories. So I pestered him for them, and he had them. He is an aircraft photographer, which is a thing nobody knew. I do now. And he was telling me how the frame rate varied widely depending on the plane. Whereas some planes, the rate at which the rotor rotates is really fast, so you need to have a high frame rate. And if the rotor goes very slowly with a prop, then you need a slower frame rate. Why is that? Well, because you don't want a freeze frame. You know, here, this looks like a toy. It doesn't look like a real airplane flying through the sky. This is what they call the disc. Guess why? And this is when your frame rate is too low, and it just, you know, it's not cool looking. It's not an action shot. And this picture right here is just right? We can see that the plane is flying through the air, and we get just enough to see that it's a four prop? Whatever. I don't know the terminology. So we bring this up as a real-world issue where you don't want it to live in just the now because it looks like a toy, and you don't want to look too broadly because it gets all blurry. You want to look at just the right amount of information. So focus does not mean complete myopia, but it also doesn't mean try and understand everything at once. Take it in chunks. Picking the right chunk size, the window, is a hyperparameter all its own. It's something to figure out as best you can, as you can. So in this paper, it's 4. It's just 4. Nice. Whoa! I had the same reaction. You whip this out and you're like, what the fuck is that? So let's break it down. Don't worry. I got you. To condition the output on the actions of the agent, the output of each layer in the decoder is multiplied with the learned embedded action. Literally consciousness? Question mark? Imagining is combining your mental world with your actions in that imaginary world. So it's not just that you can imagine a picture of what the chessboard or the real world looks like. You can take actions in your mind. You can live there. You can do things, and you can understand what will occur. So this is, in the paper, sort of their mental world, and these are the actions they can take in that world. And they can combine those and output literally what the world looks like. In this case, the next game state. So these are the same, right? So this is a real big mess. This is simpler. This is the same thing, basically, but as simple as I could make it. You're welcome. Or I'm sorry if I've completely butchered it, whichever. So let's try this, right? So we have a bunch of dominoes. Imagine those in your mind. Close your eyes. Now knock one of those dominoes over. What happens? Oh, look, all the other dominoes fall over. That's true to reality. Congratulations, you have a bit of an ability to imagine. And now, so do our robots. So, we've discussed the imagination component, which is living in your mind, and how this AI can do that. Chef's kiss, masterpiece. What we have not done is really talk about agent modeling, right? It's not just that we want a world, we want people. We want to understand you exist. I care about your pain, I care about your rewards, and your loss of rewards. And that's a little bit harder and very much being studied. Jacob Forrester is a god. Is he a man? I don't know. He's amazing. He's a professor. Yeah, he's a professor now. Congrats, Jacob. At I believe Oxford, and he's just doing some amazing work. He was originally, I knew of him from his work with StarCraft, and now he's working on some stuff with Hanabi, which is a card game which is very multi-agent, and it's a lot of understanding your opponents in this thing, modeling them. So very excited to check back into his work. Quick side note, but he's also doing some consulting for artificial intelligence in war, which is like real war and stuff, and that's real scary, because it should be. It could kill us all. So that's what he's doing. What am I doing? What am I doing to, because words, they're useless. They don't do anything. We can be as angry as we want about politics, but if you don't get off your ass, you're a waste of space, which is something good to realize, and then maybe try and figure out your own path to how do I be effective. Here's one way we could be effective. We could create empathetic robots, which we could take this, what we learned in this paper, and apply some of it, if nothing else than just our understanding, to S-GANs. What's an S-GAN? Well, an S-GAN is essentially a semi-supervised GAN, and it's a generative adversarial network, but a little bit more. And I'm hoping to eventually combine that with another advancement from relatively recently, which is the ability to grow a network. So it's originally a small, low-resolution 8x8 picture, and then it's a 16x16 picture, and you're literally adding neurons or adding brain matter. And through that process, you could potentially, hopefully, the aim is to model, kind of have a space for other people. So your mother has a literal spot where you sort of, they become part of you in a way, and when somebody, when you lose somebody, you lose part of yourself, right? That's a way to really ensure empathy and to deal with existential crises, is to ensure that all parties care. There are dark sides to this. I am well aware. So I will be working on the GrowGAN tutorial, also by PhD Jason Brownlee, who is not a man, he is a god. And all you need to join me in this quest is an internet connection. We are on Google Colab, so you do not need an impressive computer. And don't worry, I'm really stupid, and I don't mean that metaphorically. Like I'm slow. It's okay. We are going to make progress slowly, but make it we shall. So working together can be quite nice sometimes. And I'd like to. I'm talking about some heavy stuff: demons, genocide, 1994, and I just want to be clear that these are things to be concerned about, but the goal is to work together. We'd like to do that. I just think it's far harder than just try. Just trying doesn't work. Don't work harder. Literally work differently, not just smarter, but reinvent the wheel if the wheel is broke, and it is. I don't know if I can say this, but we can yell all we want about racism. It's been around forever. Humans have always done it. Why would it be different this time just by yelling at each other? We need to, like, change humanity to fix the racism thing. I want to fix it, yes, but we can't just do it by trying. Sanctification is a dead end. I'll see myself out on the way to hell. Okay, now the part everyone's actually thinking about that's on the screen. This is a link to a discussion with Elon Musk. I'm a massive fan, surprise, surprise, with Jack Ma. Elon Musk and Jack Ma are having a chat about a lot of things, some of which are AI, existential threats to humanity, and Jack Ma is so out of touch, stupid, that it's not possible. We can make boomer jokes, and we can make, oh, rich man doesn't know anything, eat the rich, whatever. We can make those jokes. But there's a certain level at which where you're like, that's too incompetent. You're too dumb. I don't think you could be that wealthy. And, like, literally, he said some things that are, like, so outlandish. Listen to it for yourself. I'm not telling you to have, to eat my thoughts for breakfast, have your own. But he says some things that are, like, so outlandish that I enjoy making fun of people. I don't feel good about punching down and making fun of people who aren't capable of having that sort of tussle. So I'd like to start a conspiracy. Jack Ma is a construct. In the same way Epstein was a construct, Jack Ma is not real. He's a puppet. And this is supposed to be a joke, and this was going to be a joke, and I just think this is, like, awesome art. And then, so that's where I was at. That's what I was, this is this slide. And then on the Lex Friedman podcast with Calicanus, that fellow who's so delightful, he mentioned the Uyghurs. That's how you pronounce this. We didn't figure out the science of never again. We didn't figure that out. And it's back. It's China. They are the second most wealthy country in the world. Measuring military might is a whole nother thing. And fuzzy when everyone has nukes. So, measuring power when things are infinite is messy. God, I'm such a nerd. I'm not stoked about this. I was hoping this would be abstract and there'd be time to plan, and it turns out this has been going on for a while and ramping up. Their operation, like, over the past, I think, year or two has tripled in size. And I'm just some shitty young man, kid, monster, whatever I am. But the quest to create empathetic beings, because I'm not quite sure how good we are at empathy at all. I'd like to figure it out in robots. So that's my my hope. So we don't have to deal with this ever again. Never again. It happened again. It's happening now. Let's always draw as many delineations as we can. Nancy Pelosi is kind of a piece of shit. Are all liberals pieces of shit because they're on the same side as her? Not necessarily. Some of them are good people. And same for the right. Donald Trump, he's an asshole. No question. Are all right-wing people assholes? Not necessarily. Some of them, certainly. The Chinese people are not necessarily the same as the Chinese government. Let's be very careful we don't become the monsters in the process, okay? All right? Fuck, man. Fuck. I might cover this. I might not. Fuck, dude. It's not a good piece of news. All right. I mean, like, so I don't know your media stream. I don't know what world is being fed to you. But I live in the South, and I try and keep an ear to sort of as many different sides of conversations as I can, not just left and right, but also just weird people. And there are a whole lot of people that, regardless of the truth, of the veracity of the argument, a lot of people think government was doing some things and it got out. And it's not all natural. You add that to the fact that the American government has publicly stated that China is currently enacting a genocide against an innocent group of people on a very large scale, and they literally just took the section of 1984 I read on camera and just put it into words, which I stated is probably the most evil thing you can do, and that's like verbatim what they're doing. So, 2020 was a good year. Did I mention empathy is important? Alright. I feel inappropriate adding this, but I do need money to continue working on this kind of stuff, and I don't have it. So, feel free to like and subscribe, which costs nothing, or Patreon, PayPal, or sponsorship deals. Why not? I'd love to talk about the capitalist components that are worth talking about. Some of them are, like coffee. Sure. Okay. Don't love your neighbors yourself, because a lot of people hate themselves. Love them as they should be loved. Or better than that, because that's not a good baseline. And I'm out.